That's why there's some oil on it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Beatty Windmill Restoration Part 4. We just got up to the garage here this morning and we're going to get into doing all the cleaning of the parts now. We're just going to start from one end to the other, clean them all up. And I already talked to the paint store. My buddy that works there, he's going to get us fixed up with some special paint that he claims to be the best for outdoors. I explained to him that it's a windmill and that it's going to be outside in the weather for the rest of its life. So I wanted something that was going to last, just to give me something good. So I'm going to get some paint samples here and send them off to him, because I want to try and make this thing as original as I can. So yeah, we're just going to, he's going to find me some green for the gearbox and some stuff that's going to look close to galvanized, or as close as he can get, and that's what I'm hoping to use. If I don't like it, I'm going to leave the blades original for now, and I can always paint them in time to come. But for sure we're going to be painting the gearbox and all the furling mechanism and everything like that. So yeah, we'll get started here setting everything up, and we're just going to go around, and I have a bunch of cheap cans of brake cleaner. We're just going to use them, and we're going to take them and clean them, all those parts up, and degunge them, and hopefully it all goes well. Alright, so we got all the parts cleaned here, pretty well, all of them now. They all came out really nice. That's how I'm going to leave them. I don't feel the need to sandblast anything or whatever, but anyways, it's all cleaned up. Got everything in order. Had to sand some of the sludge off of some of these parts. Man, there was a lot of sludge. Everything looks pretty good. This crank pin's here, or this top pin, wrist pin here, a little bit of wear, but I mean, it's not like you're putting 200 pounds of compression at the thing like a motor. It's just going up and down, jerking the motor, or jerking the pump up and down, so I'm not going to worry about replacing that. It's really not wore too bad. Everything else came out really nice, cleaned up really well, so I'm pretty happy with all that stuff. Anyways, at the gearbox here, I have this thing here for grease. I put new grease in it, tried to push the old stuff out. I couldn't get it through. There's some of it coming through, but I figured out, I tried to get in there with a wire and pick it out. And looking in here, it looks like the old grease is hardened. So anyways, we're going to just try and take a drill here. I got a drill about half the size and just try and drill out all the old grease and get through there. So you can see it's all coming out there, and voila. Looking in there, you could not even tell there was supposed to be a hole there, so I'm glad I found it. So we're gonna get this all cleaned up and get some paint from town, paint it all up, some bearings, and we can start reassembling this. Alright guys, so we're all cleaned up here. I got a few more parts to brake clean yet. As you can see, everything's really dirty, but some stuff like this I want to brake clean up a bit better, and then I can paint it. Stuff like this. I got this brass cap popped out of that, and I got that hole freed up in there for grease. That's where the cap was. I drove the races out of the bearings there, the two bearings, one that goes on your input shaft there. They both looked like brand new. I just cleaned them up here. I'm just going to bring it to the auto parts store and see if they can get me an actual Timken bearing, because this thing has like zero wear on it. It's in great condition. I'd reuse it, but since it's a part and that's been in use for 100 years, I'm going to put some new ones in it, because why not? Can still read all the numbers on it. Just curious to see if there's still numbers on it, or the numbers are still the same. Anyways, yeah, we're gonna head to town, go get some green paint from my buddy. That's about the best shot I have of the green paint that's left on it. And we're gonna get this all cleaned up, prepped for paint, and then I'm gonna hopefully paint this, and then I can start painting the other parts that have to be green, and then put it back together. Alright guys, so we just got back from town. I ended up getting a sample of paint. Buddy mixed it up there. A sample of some silver that I'm going to try and galvanize after. But for now, we're just going to concentrate on getting the gearbox back together and getting all the furling mechanism, the gearbox painted, all that stuff painted, and then I can put I can deal with the blades and the tower and all that stuff after. But we ended up getting some nice green. It's a high gloss, he said, but it's gonna go back down. He said it won't be as glossy, which will be good anyways. But all right guys, so I just brake cleaned this whole thing. I'll show you it here. So as you can see, it's drying off to that real dry, rusty look. That's what you want. Then you know there's no oil on it. Now that I have it cleaned, I'm seeing that there's a bit of something right here. Looks like oil. So gonna have to clean that, but everywhere else nice and dry. And yeah, that's what we want for painting. It's gonna go on there real nice. So we'll get the camera on us when we're painting this and do a time lapse of that. Anyways, here it is so far. Some of the components there. I lathered it on nice and thick, and only had a couple runs on it. I smoothed them out. But yeah, it looks really, really sharp. Really covers well. In here, I wouldn't have painted this, but when I pulled it off from the factory, there was paint in there, so I decided to paint it. Why not? The hub went together really well. The paint on it, it looks really sharp. And got some spray or some paint on here, but that doesn't matter. I gotta paint these anyways at some point, just not right away. The crack there, I'm just gonna try and lop it on that crack to fill it in to keep it watertight. I assume water came in here and it froze and cracked that. But anyways, yeah, it's all painted there, and all my parts are dry here now. They really look a lot better now that they're dry. Yeah, so yeah, we're just gonna clean up all my tools now and do cleanup. Alright guys, so it's the next day again. I got the paint, or all the painted pieces that I redid for the second coat. I have them all over by the fire now, so I got the fire rock in there. They've been sitting for just over 24 hours now. The hub there, everything's dry. It's still got to have 10 days for all the paint to dry completely, but I got just about everything. Missed one little spot right there. I'll touch that up. But otherwise, everything else here is really, really nicely finished. Really happy with the finish on the paint. Nice shine to it. I didn't think I wanted shiny at the starting, but now I'm really really happy with the shiny. I really like it. And yeah, so I hunted for bearings. They're really hard bearings to get. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get the Timkins again, because I can find some new old stock. I might be able to find some. Otherwise, they're gonna have to just cross-reference it over to another brand. I told them that if they go to SKF or something, I want them to just make sure that they're a Canadian or an American-made bearing. I don't want anything Chinese on this thing. You can find the Chinese bearings for them really easily, but apparently they're not the best bearings, and that's why I don't want to use them. So what we did was I greased this mast pipe here, the inside of it. It's not wore at all, so I cleaned it up the best I could. Took some red and tacky, some good wheel bearing grease in there, put it in there. Right to the bottom, I put my finger in there on each end, and then the middle of it, there was about 4 inches I couldn't get in there. So I took a broomstick, coated it, put some grease in there. So anyways, that's ready to go on. As far as the turntable bearing, I couldn't find any balls that would fit in there perfectly. And that, I mean, it's not spinning all the time, it's just spinning into the wind. We mainly get wind from one way here, not that that's my excuse. But I didn't want to put new bearings in on the old surface because those bearings have wore to that surface already. So what I've done is I put those old bearings back in. I cleaned them up really well. I'll show you here. Cleaned them up really well, and I packed them nice. The only thing I did was flip this washer over upside down because this had wore in here a path, and it's got to have the proper clearance in here, or close enough clearance so it can turn. Anyways, it turns really nice in there, and I mean, it's got play in there where it can move. So anyways, that turns really nice there. There's lots of grease in it. And then this mast pipe I decided to leave. It wore a little bit in the top here. You can see a mark down here, but this is like when I run my finger along here, it's smooth here on each side. Here it's smooth, and then it's just right here. It's hard to focus on. There's a little ridge, but that's right at the top, and that's expected a little bit. So I'm not gonna have to fix this, which I found out is really rare. So yeah, it's just that little ridge. I could have machined it off if I wanted to, but I'm not concerned because that sticks through the top anyways. But yeah, everything else that's packed. I was gonna put some caulking in behind here, some gasket maker, but then I thought if water ever got in here, it couldn't drain out the bottom. So I just stuck this on here, packed it with grease. So next thing we're gonna do is just throw the gearbox on there and put the nut on it. I'm heading out on this thing for a trip for a few days, so all that paint can dry in the meantime, and then hopefully next week the bearings will be in and I can get to putting all these gears together and gearbox together. But for now we'll set the top on here and or the gearbox on here, and it can stay there. Alright guys, so we're on there. As you can see, it went really nice. I greased the hell out of the thing in there, so the grease is spewing all over there. Grease is spewing out of there. I greased the inside shaft of the stub for the jerk rod here to go up and down. I greased everything. So anyways, it spins really nicely. You can see, I'll just spin it here. So you can see there's grease spewing out everywhere, so it's a little thick now, but that's what we want. Alright guys, so for this part now we got a nut and washer here that goes on top. I assume this washer is for, there's no seals in here, so I assume it's so your grease goes, or your oil flows over instead of going around everything. So we're just gonna make sure all the grease is packed into here nicely so that stub tower's lubed, because I actually had to drill out the stub tower, the channel in it that is the oiler. I actually had to put a drill bit through it just to get the oil back, or just so I could put grease through the greaser underneath, or the grease cap, because it was so hard and packed in there and hadn't been greased in so long. So anyways, that washer goes on there first, and then you take this nut. We're going to put some grease on the threads. It's got an inside thread, and just got to get this rod around there. That just threads in there just like that, and that holds our gearbox onto the stub tower. Alright guys, so I had to pull this back off because these levers have to go on here first before the mill. So anyways, it's on there now, and we're all good to go here. Put the brake mechanism on here. I want to get it on before the paint dried because it's real tight. There's oil everywhere. I like the look of the bolts being normal still and not all painted the same as everything else. I like that look. So I decided to leave that. I got the pin in here. This moves freely. Your mechanism for your brake comes around here, and it works freely up and down here. It just has to pull it up because this spring sits here and pushes down, but I gotta wait for all the paint to dry and stuff so I can chip it off of here, because I gotta make a gasket sealer for there and put it against here, and then we can put her together. So anyways, we'll see you next week. I'm off snowmobiling tomorrow, so see you then. Hey guys, so we're back now. We're over here looking at the windmill. So I sanded this off and cleaned it up really nice. This will all get cleaned up, but I wanted to make sure everything was greased and moved freely, which it does. Anyways, I just sanded that, made it a nice mating surface, made sure everything was clean in here. It looks like it's dirty, but it's just the casting in there. Anyways, I just tack this, and we're gonna make a gasket for here because the original gasket broke one coming out. So I just tacked that. It's clean now. And then coming over here, the other side there is now clean, so that can get alright. And I already tacked that, so now I'm going to take my gasket maker. I use this stuff quite often. Permatex, the right stuff. Alright, so now our brake mechanism just fits straight in here. This tapered piece on the end here will sit down into there, and the bolt goes up through there, and there you go, we got our brake mechanism. Alright, so our spring's in there for our brake. This will just imitate what it'll do. So you can see there, goes up and down. Alright guys, so we're back now. Basically I had to rip this front section back off because the race will not fit through here. It is just so it's smaller. I did not realize that. So anyways, that has to come back off. Everything's looking pretty crappy now because of all the grease and oil and crap I got over everything. But the good news is I ground off my brake here. It's wore in about a 1/16 to an 1/8, but I'm not going to have to redo it. This spring goes in here and keeps pressure on your hub, and I had a nut through it which was tightening this spring in and not letting the brake shoe travel all the way down. That's why I thought that it had to be built up, but it doesn't now. So anyways, I'm still waiting on bearings. They had trouble finding them because apparently they're must be just old stock or something, so they found everything except one. They're shipping them out today. And so in the meantime, I've been experimenting with paint. I got some stuff here. I can paint over that. That's why I put it on the tower, but it's not going to look right on the blades. It's too shiny. So I tested that there, but in the meantime, I'm going to work on all the pull out lever here. Work on everything there that needs to be painted silver. So I've been really experimenting with paint, and I've been really talking online. If you're into windmills at all, check out vintagewindmillforum.com. There's a bunch of great guys on there that are willing to really help you out and pay the favor back and help them out as much as you can, for sure. Yeah, just if you want to learn about windmills and stuff, great forum to check out, guys. So anyways, on there, Paul there, he's the administrator, he recommended, and some other guys, this Rust-Oleum cold galvanizing compound. So I went to town and got some. It's actually relatively cheap. I paid 15 something for it, but you go to Canadian Tire, you can get it for about less than 10 I've seen after, but whatever, supporting the local businesses. And obviously it dries pretty like that. It just doesn't look right. And over here, I tried some of that other silver stuff on the blades, and I was bending them straight, so that's why I've been working on that. And so that's why there's some rubber mallet marks on here. But anyways, it just doesn't look quite right. And I tried some up here on the edge of the vane just with a rag, and it doesn't look right. But I mean, I can go over top of it. So in the meantime, I have my 2 spokes that were always out of this hub that you guys had seen, I'm sure. Anyways, those are back in. I thought I would have to cut them and get them welded, but it's just all the struggles right now of not having a welder in the shop. It's really kind of getting to irritate me. Anyways, 2 of these spokes, I believe it was this one and this one, the threads were just wore off on the end. I was able to thread them in still and fit nice and tight. I Loctited them, so that's back together. Those spokes will get painted. I'm going to cold galvanize them, and then I'm going to put silver over. So what I've come up with to imitate the galvanizing is this stuff here. It's called Rust-Oleum Hammered. Tremclad makes one too, and Tremclad just didn't have as good of reviews. So this finish actually looks pretty close to a galvanized finish. That's what it's supposed to look like. So we're going to experiment with it here. Once my parts over here dry, I'll show you them. Right here, I got the cold galvanize on them. I just got them sitting here up on bricks. It just kind of puts a nice even heat to them and helps them dry. So yeah, we're just gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna try some of that Rust-Oleum Hammered on them, and then we can get those pieces greased up and we can install them on the mill. So we're gonna do that now. Alright guys, so I just shot this stuff. Well, I didn't have it on camera because I was just kind of experimenting, and it turned out better than I thought. So as you can see there, bit of a texture there. I really like that. It's gonna look kind of like galvanized, I think. So anyways, these are just the linkages. I'm gonna leave them no matter what, but it's gonna be the blades and the tail that are gonna be the main thing that I'm gonna be concerned about. So yeah, I'm gonna let those dry, and it says that should be dry to the touch in 30 minutes, and if that's all good, we're gonna put it on the mill and grease everything up, and it can dry on there. Alright guys, so that's gonna have to be the end for Beatty Windmill Part 4. I'm already at about 25 minutes of footage here, so I gotta really cut this up and make a Part 5, so it's just getting too long, and I want to keep them decently short. So anyways, we'll finish this up, and we'll start back with you guys on painting and putting the bearings in whenever they come in. I'm still waiting on them, so once they come in, we're gonna start putting everything together, and we'll be back with you. So stay tuned for Part 5, and again, thanks for watching, and I'm hoping you're enjoying it. As always guys, thanks for watching, and please give the channel a like and a subscribe. If my videos interest you, please click on my channel and check out my other videos.